Former U.S. Air Force general has warned of a possibility of a direct war between the United States and China, most likely on the issue of Taiwan. And he says that this could happen as early as 2025. And to this end, he's now urged his commanders to push their units to achieve maximum operational battle readiness. An internal memorandum over this issue, in fact, emerged on social media, and this, interestingly, was later confirmed to be genuine by the Pentagon. In the memorandum, the head of the U.S. Air Mobility Command, General Mike Minihan, has said that the main goal should, in fact, be to deter and, if required, to defeat China. Minihan said that he hopes that he's in fact wrong, but he also added that his gut feeling says that the United States may have to fight a war with China by as early as 2025. The General Minihan reasoned his arguments on this. Taiwan has presidential elections next year. This would offer the Chinese President Xi Jinping an excuse for military aggression. And during this time, the United States would be most likely distracted by its own contest for the White House. The General Minihan hence has said that Xi's team, reason and opportunity are all aligned for a possible conflict in the year 2025. The senior U.S. officials have said in recent months that China appears to be speeding up its time frame for seizing control of Taiwan. China staged major military exercises in August last year, seen as a trial run for an invasion after a defiant visit of a solidarity to Taipei by the then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
China takes Taiwan by force in 2024. Welcome back to More War Mondays. Finally, here on the Rob Maness Show, live on our news station, Patriot.tv. And yes, we still have our X Spaces live audience simulcast, and we're glad to have Kat and Shell as our hosts back over there. Well, that was a year ago, that video you just saw. And General Minihan, my old neighbor from Dyess Air Force Base, he took a lot of heat for that, as did those of us who agreed with his approach for having the audacity to actually order his forces to prepare for war with China over the Taiwan issue. Well, it turns out he may have been slightly wrong, but only about the year China would move. As dawn broke this morning in the United States, breaking news reporting revealed China has stationed 4 warships permanently around the island nation. Taiwan's recent election of a pro-independence president is a big potential trigger point for China's President Xi to move forward quickly and take Taiwan by force. And China's alliance with Iran and Russia, strengthened in the last 2 years by our own decisions pushing them closer together over the Ukraine war, could be the reason why increasing pressure by Iranian forces in the Middle East is ramping up on the U.S. and her allies through the attacks on U.S. forces since October 7th, 2023. I said at the time of Minihan's memo that I thought China would move earlier than 2025 in order to avoid having a President Trump in office, and it looks like 2024 might just be that time. Well, friend of the show, retired Army Colonel John Mills, has spent the last few weeks in Taiwan and joins us today to discuss what we'll be seeing from China if they are going to invade Taiwan this year, and talk about the election and what he talked to folks on the ground about. John, my friend, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's been too long.
Hey, Rob, thank you. Happy New Year. Great to be on the show with you again.
Yeah, Happy New Year, man. So tell me, talking to folks on the ground in the island nation of Taiwan, what's your sense of the citizens out there?
There's three parties that were
right now.
there was 3 parties that were running. The DPP, Democratic Progressive Party, which is the party in power. They've had 2 terms as president. They won, and that's the party that China did not want to win. Don't get confused. People say Democratic Progressive Party. Well, that's not us. Well, I mean, people need to chill out and just not get hung up on these names of foreign parties and things like that. That is your conservative make Taiwan great again party, the Populist Party. They won, also known as the Green Party. So again, don't get confused. Then there's the legacy KMT party. Now I get some folks who say KMT, that's Chiang Kai-shek. That's the party we want to win. Newsflash, that party has been corrupt and in the tank in the pocket of China for years, and probably always was. And I've had to really update and relearn Chiang Kai-shek. I mean, he was a thug, a scoundrel, and for every dollar the CIA gave him, 80%, 80 cents went into his pocket. So you thought 10% for the big guy was bad. How about 80%? And then the TPP, the Taiwan People's Party, they've come out a new party. They tried to play the middle ground between the two parties. The KMT was trying to play that if you vote green, if you vote for the DPP, it's a vote for war, vote for KMT, it's a vote for peace. There was this ghost written article in Foreign Affairs magazine from the Council on Foreign Relations, the group we love so much. They clearly ghost wrote that article. They clearly were trying to conduct an election influence operation to get the citizens to vote blue and vote for the KMT, which would have put China in charge. It belly flopped. It was the same argument. Funny enough, it's the same argument used against Reagan in '84 by Walter Mondale. Vote for me, it's peace. Vote for Reagan, it's war. Same routine. And it's funny if you look at the CFR membership. There's more than a few people who were around and involved in the '84 election campaign on both sides. So the Green Party won. But one thing that's funny, all three parties said strongly increased defense spending. Now, I don't know if you could
Hmm.
trust the KMT to that, but the TPP actually had the strongest defense increase, and they've been really spiking the defense spending. That's good, but there's a $19 billion back order of war material they've already paid for that has not been delivered yet. And between Ukraine, Israel,
Hmm.
and Taiwan, and by the way, and our own needs. It just our defense industrial base is pathetic, and 19 billion back order for Taiwan. And to be honest, between the three, I'm not sure if I'd put Israel and Taiwan at the top. I
Hmm.
might wait. It depends on material. I might weight it toward sea mines. Israelis don't need any sea mines.
Right.
So that's what's going on. A great victory, great victory.
So was the average citizen? Because I know you got out and about and talked to people, drinking tea and those kind of things. So does the average citizen have a heightened sense of concern that the CCP might move this year, as I said in my opening, which is just opinion, by the way. Uh, but uh, uh, but I mean, there are some folks that we want to know what the Taiwanese citizens think about this.
Yeah, they clearly this is a big issue, and China this year tried to play it a little more close to the vest this year, but they're going to have to sit on their hands at the next election because they couldn't restrain themselves. She made a very strong statement at the end of December. The
Mhm.
election was on January 13th. And then in the week leading up, there was a missile launch that was explained away as a commercial satellite launch. And there was also some a strong statement from Xi, a strong statement from the PLA leader, which I don't know who it is this week. And so that really rubs the fur the wrong way. And the Taiwanese are sweet and precious, gentle people. It's not in their DNA to grouse, complain,
Mhm.
worry, at least publicly. But I think this is a big issue, and the DPP is clearly the party that's serious about holding the ground. I think the TPP, for in some ways, is serious, but they just haven't gotten religion yet on the mortal threat. The KMT talks a game, but just go onto YouTube and see some of the fights in the legislature. The KMT, fought tooth and nail on the defense increases. They fought the submarine, the new submarine that Taiwan has produced, which was U.S. law from 2006. We will provide them the technology and the expertise to help them build a domestic submarine. It's taken them a lot of years, but they just rolled it out. I think it was late last year they rolled it out. So '06 to 23, that's 17 years it's taken them. But the KMT's fought this. But yeah, this is a real and mortal threat, and I think they're taking it more and more seriously.
Yeah, I think the outcome of the election shows it. It's good to hear that they've got some industrial base built up on the submarine issue and those kind of things. I mean, our industrial base is pathetic, as you mentioned, but surely the Taiwanese are building their defense industry out as much as they possibly can. I mean, we're not limiting them, are we?
Uh, Okay, I don't know how we define by limiting. We have just, until recently, in the last two, as much as we're not happy with the Biden team, which we shouldn't be happy with the Biden team, but this last two National Defense Authorization Acts have been extremely explicit on support for Taiwan, and people are going, I don't know that if we're going to come to their defense. I'm sorry, between the language in the original 1979 Taiwan Relations Act and the last two NDAAs, it's extremely explicit that we will defend Taiwan, and Taiwan has a very robust capability anyway, industrial capability and capacity. One thing they just received, they were just given approval like a week or two ago, because very few countries, Israel is one of them, have the approval where they could take American war material and essentially produce it on their own, license produce it. And that was just given to Taiwan just in the last week or two. That's a good idea. And to be honest, I was given special access to the winning party. I can't say any details about who I talked to or what we talked about, but um, getting Taiwan involved in production of their own war material that they bought from us is a great idea. It frees up our capacity, but also, guess what? They're very good at producing things, and they could very well just, we're short on HIMARS rockets. Guess what? They could very probably do a lot better job. Lockheed Martin, Arkansas, love you all. But I think Taiwan, now that they have
Yeah.
license to do this, they could do some great things. And one thing we've talked about also with our partners, South
Hmm.
Korea, Japan, and there's been this big deal in Subic Bay, this dormant South Korean shipyard that was shut down as inefficient. It was a brand
Right.
new shipyard built in 2003. It's been reopened in a teaming arrangement, not with just a new South Korean owner, but also with Austal, an Australian slash American company, along with the
Hmm.
U.S. Navy, along with there's even looks like some Taiwanese connection to as a repair as a it's a one of the largest ship building facilities in the world for repair because of our huge maintenance backlog in the U.S. Navy. It could be used there, but even building modular components of a ship and sending and floating up. There's different transport ships that could carry those over here.
Right.
Our new Navy frigate, the Constellation frigate, is now a year behind schedule. Why? Because Fincantieri up in Wisconsin, yes, we do make ships up in Wisconsin,
Yes, we do.
doesn't have the workforce. Well, holy
Mm.
smokes, have the Taiwanese make major assemblies under contract and just send them to Fincantieri. So all they're doing is welding the sections together. Okay, that's we got to start thinking smart on these things.
Oh yeah, we do, man. We've got. That's why I asked the question about the Taiwanese because I know they're an industrious people and they produce amazing things in their own right. Anyway, and well, we run out of time before the first break for a question, but on the backside after the little cold open video, John, we'll take a question from the Spaces Live audience so that they can get a feel for what you have experienced the last few weeks, and then we'll jump into what are the strategic indicators that we are looking for to see if this will actually happen in 2024 as far as China trying to take Taiwan through the use of force? So I'm Rob Maness here on Rob Maness Live with retired Army Colonel John Mills talking about Taiwan, the Communist Chinese Party, and whether we'll see some type of military action out there before Donald Trump is reelected. And we'll be right back after these messages.
The world is about to shift. Banks are going cashless globally with the emergence of central bank digital currency, which will bring with it programmable money and the ability to turn on or off your purchasing power based on your digital social profile. It's like the equivalent of spyware in your bank account. You need to get out of the system with the world's safest and most private assets, silver and gold. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD at 877-547-5743. That's 877-KIRK-PhD.
We are here to defend democracy for the people.
So we know that the Taiwanese just had their election. They have picked a government that isn't pro-China. We also know that China has made a lot of overt threats about the outcome of the election. And the question that's all on our mind is, will they invade Taiwan? I've said before on this channel that China's natal chart this year is really, really exciting. They are going through two key transits. We have Pluto going across the ascendant. It promises deep power struggle and transformation. We also have transiting Uranus on China's IC, which promises a lot of destabilization and unrest and chaos, especially when it comes to territory and land. So back to the question, will they invade Taiwan? I don't have a balls to say yes, so I'm just gonna say it's really possible. And of course, any kind of war is bad, so let's hope for the best.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're talking more War Mondays here, and that was even a Chinese or Taiwanese astrologist is saying very possible that the CCP and President Xi might try to retake Taiwan by force in 2024 before Donald J. Trump is reelected, if he is reelected. And it's looking really good for him right now, but you never know what's going to happen in the next 9.5 months. So our guest today is retired U.S. Army Colonel and former senior DOD official John Mills, who has spent the last few weeks in Taiwan covering the elections and talking to folks about their defense capabilities and whether they're concerned or not. John, we're so pleased to have you back with us. Let's go over to my Spaces audience and see. I know somebody's got a question over there that they want to ask you. I didn't get to it in the last segment. So, Kat, Michelle, go ahead.
Looks like AJ's got a question for you, Colonel.
Go ahead, AJ.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Colonel Maness. Colonel Mills, I have a question, sir. In the old world, as I'm sure you know, the power projection is measured by the numeration of any given capability, let it be troop numbers or ship numbers or any other. As I'm sure you've heard, if China could get away with classifying every fishing boat as an aircraft carrier just to make their numbers look better, they would do so. What are your expectations in regards to their actual capabilities versus what they tend to project, given the fact that we have multiple carrier strike groups and one always forward deployed to Japan? With that, I yield. Thank you very much. And thank you, Colonel Maness.
Thanks, AJ.
Well, thank you, AJ. That's a great question. The Chinese have built up a magnificent military, but you've got a great point, AJ. Just because it looks great doesn't mean they know how to use it. The reality is they have never done any amphibious invasion, much less something like this that would be essentially the equivalent of the Normandy invasion in World War II, where we went only 25 miles after 3 years of preparation to land on the mainland and defeat the Nazis. So that's a great question. War usually does not go your way. That's why you have to be flexible. They are not good at being flexible. What I would suggest is the stormy season, the typhoon season really starts in April and goes to October. The Taiwan Straits are much, much wider than the English Channel, which is 25 miles at its narrowest point. At its narrowest point, it's 100 miles. It's more like 125 to 150 at its widest point. So you got a pretty significant gap, which is lovely from a defense perspective. And you got a lot of high winds. And then again, you got the typhoon season. So if they're going to make a move, which they've never done before like this, it's a World War I reference, but it's still apropos, is they need to execute their railway timetable now. That means you have to flow the right logistics, the right supplies to the right port in the right sequence to load the correct ship. That's a very complex operation. They've never done anything on this scale. It's going to be a mess. However, and oh, by the way, she has been disappearing general after general. He's put admirals in charge now, a senior military as an admiral for the first time. Um, so this is going to be a mess, but in many ways, she is feeling cornered. Things are not at the same time going very good for them. They're going very bad domestically. The economy's bad, food supplies are bad, energy is still very tenuous. Um, but that doesn't mean he won't invade. When dictators are up against a wall domestically, they always invade. So even if his military is not prepared, they might do it. It'll be a mess. And as soon as you see just a few of those transports, it'll be also very visually obvious. As long as our intelligence community is not totally distracted by CRT and DEI training, they should be able to pick it up. And the Taiwanese are pretty good about this. So, and you just light up a few of those transport ships. Once they start to move, it will be a
Yeah.
absolute circus.
So you're saying we won't get caught flat-footed again like what happened on October 7th, 2023, John?
Well, definitely not October 7th, but with the Russian invasion, our intelligence community got it right after 6 months of
Yeah,
shouting they're
they
going to
did.
invade. Okay, but of course, the Biden team failed to do anything about it. They just shouted they're going to invade, and Putin says, "Well, they keep on shouting I'm going to invade, so I guess I'm going to invade." I mean, this is just ridiculous. But we're hoping that
Yeah.
our IC does not get distracted, and again, this is going to be very visually obvious, and I think even this is where social media is actually going to play a role because I guarantee you social media on this is going to slip out one way or another.
Yeah. So do we have it down to we know which ports they have to use in order to be effective in taking this rolling stock really and manpower and all and supplies like fuel, ammo, those kind of things, and getting them onto the right ships in the right sequence at the right time. Do we have it? Do we have a sense we know exactly which ports they're going to use at this point to do that?
Well, details like that, I'm hoping the J5 at Indo-Pacific Command and the J2 have already worked out these kind of details for our contingency plans. But it's really it's Ningbo and above Taiwan on the mainland, above Fujian province as you get into Shanghai. It's really a lot of it's going to come from there. The only problem is that's the closest to all of the Japanese, South Korean, and American air capabilities. So that's a
Yeah.
challenge. They start aggregating and concentrating there. That's going to be the easiest to hit by the non-Taiwanese side. And oh, by the way, the Taiwanese have a fair number of long-range Tomahawk-like missiles. Uh,
Hmm.
we've slow rolled a lot of the assistance on those because were afraid of a first strike, and I don't think a first strike's a good idea. But as soon as they start massing and coming at Taiwan, um, something's going to happen where Taiwan will likely unleash, and at that time, Taiwan would unleash on all the ports because you're going to have second and third waves, and that's going to light up the ports and the airfields. So that's Fujian. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot directly across because the challenge is you put a few mines in the top end of the straits and the bottom end of the straits. You create a kill box where if
Right.
you're inside that, you really can't go anywhere. And if you're outside, you don't want to try to cross that line of mines. So I think a lot of it's going to come from the south. and that's going to be the Guangdong province, Guangzhou area, Hainan Island.
Mhm.
That is actually the south of Taiwan is actually the more approachable and weaker because of the lack of allied forces. Now we have built base camps, and I actually was just going through DoD photo libraries and found several where we have actually occupied Basco Island, which is halfway in between the Philippines and Taiwan. That gives you about maybe 150 miles to the north, 150 miles to the south. And we put at least HIMARS there, if not the new Typhoon missile system. And we put any kind of censoring capability there to interdict any submarine movements. That's deadly to the Chinese.
Right. Yeah. So have we seen? Do we have any experience with the People's Liberation Army running deception operations as they practice doing these, lineups to move trains into the right places, equipment in the right sequence, coming out of their air bases and ground, Marine Corps bases, and those kind of things. Have we seen any them practicing anything like that, or because it seems like it's just a wide open area. It's really hard to have a deception
We,
plan to mask
yeah, yeah.
this.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty hard to cover up. They have had some mini exercises, but again, these were large, but not that large. And they mimic, if you look on the web, you'll find a number of our PowerPoint slides on what we call JLOTs, Joint Logistics Over the Shore Operations. Clearly, they
Hmm.
have grabbed those slides and are mimicking them because that's how they've learned to, hey, we're going to use civilian merchant vessels. We're going to have transferability from more militarized ships down to a expeditionary dock, like we have the expeditionary dock, and then from that dock, we're going to load that onto landing craft. They clearly have been reading our slides, and again, they read everything we do, everything. I mean, that's why we don't read our legislation. They read our legislation better than we do. So it's better to let them read it, analyze it, and then we'll just rip it off through signals intelligence, and then
Yeah,
then we'll know what our legislation says because we obviously don't even read our
yeah.
own legislation.
No, we don't, unfortunately, and it shows. I think they're the only other country in the world that's developing a joint logistics over the shore capability. From what I can tell, that would be on a reasonable expectation of trying to match what we're doing. Well, let's go over to the Spaces audience. I see a hand up over there, and take another question before the break. Go ahead, Shell.
All right, Colonel. This question is from Mr. Mills from Thomas Murphy in the audience. He is asking how many Chinese spy satellites have launched out of the Weichang space launch port in China since 2020?
What do I look like a
I know I didn't say
biologist
that
here?
well.
How do
I'm
I
sorry.
don't have that exact number. That's a great question. I'd have to
It
look that
is.
up. I'd have to look that up. I don't know, but I think the point is Thomas's point is good. They have clearly demonstrated that they want to dominate space. They copied our what's that miniature unmanned space shuttle, the X-39, I think it is. Uh,
X-37B.
yeah, one of those two. I can't remember, but it's like a mini unmanned space shuttle. We've used that to fly around, and we've seen that deploying and retrieving a lot of things. So I don't, Thomas, that's a great question. I don't know the exact answer to that question, but I can assure you they have been a launch frenzy, and we just take their word for it. In international protocols and announcement of launches, we try to be more transparent. Even if it's a military classified payload, we just say it's a military classified payload.
Mhm.
They're lying about everything. So if it's a space launch, it's most likely a military classified payload. But they are horrible at announcement. The satellite that was over Hawaii and doing the lasering tests. I mean, there was actually
Mhm.
almost no transparency on the capabilities or weight of that launch. But so anything they
It's a
launch,
great question.
presume it has military capability. Great question,
E-
Thomas.
Even the stuff they've sent to the moon, and they're working hard trying to match the United States and Russia, and exceed our capabilities to get stuff to the moon. I think has a more of a military capability than a civilian capability. Well, John, we got to take another break. On the way back, we'll talk about the allies that Taiwan is counting on, and if they're being peeled off somehow. When you see this next cold open clip, you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm Rob Maness on Patriot TV. We'll be right back. Talk.
When I grow up, I want to work for a woke company, like super woke.
When I grow up,
I want to be hired based on what I look like rather than my skills.
I want to be judged
By my political beliefs, I want to get promoted
based on my chromosomes. When I grow up, I want to be offended
by my coworkers
and walk around the office
on eggshells
and have my words policed
by HR. Words like
grandfather,
peanut gallery,
long time no see,
no can do.
When I grow up,
I want to be obsessed with emotional safety and do workplace sensitivity training all day long. When I grow up, I want to climb the corporate ladder
just by following the crowd.
I want to be a conformist. I want to weaponize my pronouns. What are pronouns?
It's time to grow up and get back to work. Introducing the #1 woke-free job board in America, redballoon.work.
China reportedly offered Nauru US $100 million NT $3.14 billion to drop diplomatic ties with Taiwan in favor of Beijing, while Tuvalu ambassador warned that China is much less transparent than Taiwan when it comes to foreign aid.
On Monday, January 15, Nauru announced that it was severing diplomatic relations with Taiwan, and Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, MOFA, responded by also terminating diplomatic relations with the Pacific Island country. Taiwan's Deputy Foreign Minister Tian Chong-kwang said MOFA obtained intelligence in 2023 that China had engaged with Nauru's political leaders and offered economic incentives to get the countries to change recognition. Despite efforts to engage in bilateral cooperation projects, Nauru continued to seek substantial economic assistance from Taiwan and compared it with the aid proposal from China. Regarding the amount China offered Nauru, Tian said that he was not at liberty to disclose the exact figure, but said it far exceeds the amount of aid we provide to our diplomatic allies. But according to a senior Taiwanese official, China offered Nauru $100 million in annual economic assistance to switch diplomatic relations. Taiwan now has only 12 diplomatic allies, and one of them is Tuvalu. Tuvalu's ambassador to Taiwan, Bikanaby Panu, warned the aid China is proposing to poor countries is not transparent.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show, here live on Patriot TV, folks. And our guest today is retired U.S. Army Colonel John Mills, a former senior DOD official. And he's been to Taiwan in the last few weeks, and we're talking the potential for war between Taiwan and China, and hence Taiwan's major ally is the United States. And we've long said that we would defend Taiwan if the Chinese Communist Party tried to take it back by force. Well, John, that little clip there, you know, we rely on our allies so much, and Taiwan does too. And for China to be peeling, you know, trying to peel the allies off that it has that might come to its defense using these dollars, it really got my attention when I saw the clip. Should there be a major concern about this?
Well, I don't mean to call Nauru a tiny island republic, but it's a tiny island republic that clearly, I think the message is they're corrupt and have been bought off by the almighty dollar, which the Chinese have to use to buy them off. They still have to use the dollar to buy them off. But yeah, it's concerning. But I think in many ways a tipping point has been reached on Taiwan for potential revisiting representation in the UN. Nauru is just above the Solomon Islands, another place that got ripped off by a corrupt leader who definitely, and that's a much larger, far more important uh, republic that clearly he was bought off and corrupt. His people do not agree with him at all. We don't know what's going on in the Solomon Islands, and that gives them a base behind the second island chain, which includes Guam, Tinian, and Saipan, and it gives them a straight shot to Australia. So yeah, I don't like that, but I think in many ways there is a positive trend line toward getting Taiwan back in one way or another, and we just are gonna have to use America First leadership in the next administration starting this fall. To the tip of the spear on these matters are our ambassadors and the careerists and to be honest, the Obama Biden politicals are almost better ambassadors than the careerists, because the State Department careerists really have not been helpful in many ways, and I've seen it firsthand many times. So we got to wake up our ambassadors. I mean, we got Aponte in Panama. I think she's a political, but she's not advocating well for America First, and Panama would love to see Americans. And a lot of this is a failure of State Department for these ambassadors to be effective representatives of America.
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Panama and the Panama Canal we've talked about before on this show. It really is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party because a Chinese company controls it now and provides the services there. And all Chinese companies are CCP. Many of them are CCP and PLA. If I were the Chinese, that company would be PLA owned specifically, or the Chinese Navy. Either way, when I say PLA, oftentimes I'm talking about, like DOD is talked about here in the United States. But yeah, and it also brings to mind the Belt and Road Initiative, which is their open source name for the efforts to really co-opt folks, countries around the world, especially poor countries and those kind of things. Now, you mentioned the Solomons, and I'm concerned about that too. Do we have any bases in the Solomon Islands? I'm not that familiar with
No,
that.
we haven't had any bases there since the Second World War. And we've really had no need for bases. But again, this was we were sharing an ambassador. They had 1/3 of a U.S. ambassador because we were sharing an ambassador between Vanuatu and who's the Papua New Guinea. That's right, Papua New Guinea. And the Solomon Islands each of them had 1/3 of a U.S. ambassador. That is really bad statecraft and diplomacy. And I tell you what, and if I have any say in that in the next administration, we're going to cut that silliness out. I mean, at least appoint a careerist to be a full-time person. We've just blown it. The tip of the spear should always be State Department. Everybody thinks DOD, DOD, DOD. No, 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 no. It should always be State Department. And it should be other departments and agencies too. Commerce, Treasury, things like that. That should be the face of U.S. representation. We think DOD too much, but the statecraft at these departments and agencies is horrible, and they need to be advocating for America, not apologizing for America. And I've seen that, and I tell you what, I've sometimes when I had the proper situation, I would make it very clear that that was absolutely the wrong answer. And even when it wasn't my place, I'd make it clear, because that's just that talk like that where they're always just apologizing for America. Foreign partners want authenticity and transparency. Groveling and pandering is not authenticity and transparency.
Well, we know they're really good at raising the pride flag on the right day. So, maybe they're just overly focused on the wrong things, their political ideology, instead of what's best for the United States of America. I'm just putting it in my own words, what you just said, John. I mean, it's really disappointing that the State Department has gone so out into left field, no pun intended, lefties. And I think even the career Foreign Service officers, many of them are they've always been kind of slightly left leaning, but we expected that. But isn't the problem money? I mean, we put so much money into the combatant commands that have divvied up the world. So the 4-star commanders there, they have the money, and money is power, and power is ability to communicate. And is that
Well,
one
a
of the
lot of this
issues?
is,
Maybe we should put some more money into the State Department's area operations that match
I
those
think we,
combatant command orders.
yeah, I don't have the numbers handy immediately, but a lot of people have this perception that we just have immense largesse that we give out through State Department. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not the 1950s anymore when we have the Marshall Plan.
Right.
Basic standards is like 2% of GDP for military spend. There's also reasonable standards for foreign aid spend, and we're actually, even though we're huge, we're paltry when it comes to percentages. So that's another art form because a lot of these State Department folks really don't have um, tactical money to influence the situation. And we got to get better at that because if you put a bunch of policy types out there and they really have no money, well, that's not helpful. But it doesn't have to be a lot of money. That's the other problem. You're going to just flood these. Flooding with big money is not helpful either. Small amounts of money that are very judiciously applied have a lot of leverage and influence. And we got to get better at that. We do have to give them some more. There is DoD money that comes out that is kind of like Title 22 aid money, but we could do a better job. Although we're a lot better than most countries, we could still do a better job coordinating between state and DoD on priorities.
Yeah, I'd like to see that change because I think we lead too much with the military muscle, even when we're not, engaged in combat operations against an adversary in an area of responsibility. Leading with the commanders of the combatant commands instead of leading with our State Department personnel is something we need to work on that because you know what looking back through history of the origins of the country during the Declaration of Independence years and all that, the successes were built on diplomatic missions to places like the Netherlands and France. They weren't built on military power because we really didn't have any, and I think a lot of our successes throughout our history, when you really analyze them and strip away the veneer, you see that it's where we were good at our foreign policy, linked loosely with our military policy, but with foreign policy taking the lead where we've been most successful, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's where you have military missions that can be very helpful. This is where you have active guard and reserve engineer units in the Army or in the Navy or the Air Force. Air Force has significant engineering capabilities coming in
Yeah,
to do build a bridge, build a road, build a well. To us, we're going, oh, that's big deal. Well, to a lot of these places, that is a big deal. So
it is.
operations like that are hugely helpful. So a humanitarian operation, you call it a med cap or a medical deployment, where you come in and you do some basic dental hygiene. Most of these people have never even seen a doctor or a dentist. So little things like that go a long way. So that's a
Sure do.
huge part where DoD can help. State Department sets the priorities, where to go, tees
Mhm.
up the ball, and then DoD comes in with capabilities like that. Hugely, hugely helpful.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a question real quick before the break from the live audience. Go ahead, Kat. I see your hand up there. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say something about diplomacy, but you got me, Colonel. Okay, so this is the $64 million question, right? At the end of the day, is China really going to go into Taiwan? We've been watching this song and dance for quite a while, and I'm thinking to myself, I feel like sometimes they gain a lot of power by the constant threat of it, that constant, they dip their toe out there, they fly over, they do the exercises out there where they're showing their military might and like the threatening stance, and then they never quite follow through. And I hate to put that in the universe like that, but what I'm saying is at the end of the day, are they really going to go in, or are they gaining more power by the constant threat of it? Just wondering if that's even an option that they're thinking of.
20 seconds,
Yeah,
John.
yeah, Kat. Well, I think first and foremost, they like to defeat America. This is not about Taiwan. This is about America. They like to defeat us without fighting. That's by collapsing us through invasion of the southern border, fentanyl. But she is up against a wall here domestically. Okay. I think he has 6 courses of action at this point in time, 6 possible courses of action for hard invasion, soft invasion, envelopment, or in other words, blockade, bypassing Taiwan and going for like a bigger footprint in the Solomon Islands. Doing nothing as the 5th course of action, probably not going to happen. He has to deliver something or he's going to get taken out by his own people. And the last is stoke the expanding arson fires that are breaking out across the world. We have 14 major regional conflicts or flashpoints, every one of them, and I'm including the open southern border and Chinese special operators coming in that are already in place in America. That he's doing a lot. I mean, Hamas, that is China. The attack on merchant shipping in the Middle East, biggest assault on merchant shipping since World War II. That's really China. We always hear the Houthis. Well, the Houthis work for Iran. Iran works for China. So 6 courses of action that are conceivable right now. But he's got to do something. The 5th course of action, doing nothing, very unlikely.
Yeah, I agree, John. Well, we've got to take our last break, folks. I'm Rob Maness on Patriot TV. We'll be right back with Colonel John Mills talking China, Taiwan, and next the United States, and we'll hear from the person I think is going to be the next president and his thoughts on the issue. We'll be
What if this happened to you when you're alone? Or what if it happened here? With MedGuard Alert, you're never alone. You can connect with medical professionals anywhere, anytime. And now MedGuard is introducing our exclusive new Care Watch. If you need help quickly, use it from anywhere to contact medical professionals. No cell phone required. The Care Watch is not only a life-saving medical alert device, it's a revolutionary health monitoring system that checks your blood pressure, heart rate, oxygen saturation, and much more. And here's the best part. If you have Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. The Care Watch is only available through MedGuard Alert. Call us right now. We have monitoring programs starting as low as $1 a day. The call is free, activation is free, shipping is free, and no contract is required. Remember, with Medicaid, you may qualify to get your Care Watch for free. Don't wait. Call us to get your Care Watch right now. Operators are standing by.
The U.S. help defend Taiwan if it means going to war with China?
Well, I don't want to say it because if I'm in the position of president, I don't want to say what I'm thinking. You know, if I answer that question, it'll put me in a very bad negotiating position. With that being said, Taiwan did take all of our chip business. You know, we used to make our own chips. Now they're made in Taiwan. 90% of the chips
Advanced
are made in
semiconductor
Taiwan.
chips, 90% are
they-
made in
they
Taiwan.
have-
If
they
China
they
goes
make
in there,
everything.
they'll be able to turn the world on and off. Isn't that right?
If China takes Taiwan, they will turn the world off, potentially. I mean, potentially. But remember this. Taiwan took, smart, brilliant. They took our business away. We should have stopped them. We should have taxed them. We should have tariffed them.
I want to ask you about these legal.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. That was the 45th President of the United States talking this year about Taiwan and doing the smart play. And I'll go to my guest, Colonel John Mills, who's with us to ask him what he thinks. I think President Trump there was doing the smart play instead of the bull in the China shop thing that you hear from Joe Biden a lot about what we're going to do, et cetera. And staying nuanced there, but then pointing out how important Taiwan is to us, especially with the chip industry. And then going to, why did we let them do that in the first place? Why didn't we take care of our military, or not our military, but our industrial complex here in the United States so that we could still manufacture those?
Well, I think a nuanced approach works when you're speaking from a position of strength and you are a good negotiator. Now that makes sense with Donald J. Trump. That works well because listen, I don't care what all of the elites, globalists, and legacy media say. Donald J. Trump was far more trusted, respected, and even if he wasn't liked, they paid attention to what he said. With the Biden team, they are so nuanced, over sophisticated, groveling, and pandering, nobody respects them, and especially after the debacle in Afghanistan. So they want to always pretend to be the adults in the room. Yeah, well, if they're the adults in the room, they're routinely ignored and made fun of, and the other countries just there's no respect for them. So the Taiwan taking the chips, I have a little bit of a different angle on that. It is Dr. Morris Chang who gave, and I was given a very special tour of the TSMC, just one of the massive TSMC facilities in Taiwan. It was really, hey, it was really his vision. He was an American citizen, by the way. And they had the vision to do chips in a different way. I would say, there are still makers of chips such as Intel Corporation, but a lot of the reason a lot of the work went to Taiwan is more because of regulatory oversight. I could never forget during one meeting, it was with Intel Corporation during the Obama years, where it was an afternoon. Most everybody was a very high level delegation to the Intel Corporation. One of the briefers came in, and the whole idea was Commerce was trying to bring microcircuits under export control, very, very tough export control. And, the Intel Corporation said, you know what, if that's done, we're just going to have to walk away from the chip business because it's just going to be too difficult. And I was the only one awake at the time because I said, what? What? And would you please repeat what you just said? And
Yeah.
everybody started waking up at that time. And I said that actually became a little bit of a crisis in the Obama administration. It actually took White House calls to State Commerce and Defense DTSA to try and get, and you wouldn't believe the bureaucrats were blowing off the Obama White House on this. The Obama White House says, you will not put these under export control. And the deep staters were blowing off the Obama administration on this topic. It was crazy. And but that's one of the reasons. A lot of it's not technology. It's not cost effectiveness. It's government oversight, regulation, and impediments that cause this. And that's, I was a perfect example that just this major corporation, a huge U.S. corporation said, you know what, you do this, U.S. government, we're just going to have to walk away. It's just going to be too difficult. And that's how that's one of your inputs into the calculus of whether you're going to build domestically or overseas. And this is really the predominant driving force that drives away American industry. It's not cost. That's silliness. It's not cost. It's government oversight and regulation. So people say, oh, it's just cheaper overseas. It ain't cheaper overseas if you would take out the government, the crushing government regulatory oversight, no, it wouldn't be cheaper overseas.
Absolutely. I mean, we're doing the same thing to our auto industry right now through Joe Biden's electric vehicle mandate. Well, let's take our last question from the live audience over there. I see a hand. So go ahead, Shell or Kat, with the question.
Bill, go ahead.
Yes, Colonel Mills, I think you nailed it. Trump did have respect, and I would say fear on the world stage, right? And Biden does not have that. I know this is a little off topic of Taiwan, but what do you think? How do you think Biden is and will be handling the fact that we just lost U.S. troops to Iran? And how do you think he'll handle it, and how do you think he should handle it?
Oh, wow. Boy, Bill, that's a great question. It was President Trump that got us out of these base camps. We accomplished the mission. We destroyed ISIS. We got Baghdadi. We made Soleimani go to pieces. Okay. And then he says, okay, we're done. We're coming home. That's the way we should project power. And they had immense, sometimes you do want to project fear, and they had immense fear and respect of us. What did Biden do as soon as he got back in office? He reopened these base camps. For what strategic end state? What will Biden do? Well, it's kind of what's going on with the Houthi attacks on shipping. We do aggressive finger wagging. You better stop doing it. You better stop doing it. Or what? Well, we'll do a bunch of airstrikes. Okay, I think we're on our 9th round of airstrikes against the Houthis. And the official guidance is not to destroy the Houthis, it's to degrade them. I don't know what degrade means. How can you drop a bomb and degrade somebody? You either kill them or you don't kill them. I mean, this is ridiculous. So I think we're going to see more moralizing, lecturing, finger wagging, which is only going to cause a wider conflict. Because what's going on right now with our base camps, and now that it's acknowledged that we have base camps in Jordan, which Jordan has actually been a very, very good American partner. They don't want any recognition, but they've been very good. They have to pretend to be outraged over Hamas and things and the Israeli invasion into Gaza, but they're very good in many ways. Biden's going to be outraged. They're going to do this finger wagging. It's only going to get worse. This is part of a strategic campaign led by Iran at the direction of China to push America out of the Middle East. Okay, well, some people say, well, we are America first. We don't need to be in the Middle East anyway. There's a difference between America first and having influence in a region here. So, I mean, America first means having an influence. We just don't evaporate and disappear. That's not America first. We need to have influence. So I think it's going to get worse. This is an intentional strategic campaign to drive us out between Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthi attacks on shipping, and now the consistent attacks on base camps, now 3 dead. Plus, 100, we've already had 200 injured. Now everybody, the White House will go, oh, they're only injured. Well, having an arm or a leg blown off or missing an eye from an attack, I think most people would say that's pretty serious and life-changing. So I don't like John Kirby going, oh, they were only injured. Well, having missing an arm is that's wrong. It's a life-changing event.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, John. Unfortunately, I don't see that the Biden administration or Joe Biden himself has the ability to do the right thing and respond with the necessary amount of force, and more importantly, remove the word and outlaw it, degrade from any military mission statement that the United States Armed Forces sign up to, because degrade is the stupidest military objective you can put out there, because it's not an objective and it's difficult to define. You destroy the enemy and their capability and reestablish deterrence. That's what you do. And you don't stop until you reestablish deterrence, in my mind. I think we ought to take the Iranian Navy off the water completely. They're helping the Houthis, and then destroy the Iranian militias that are all out there shooting at them.
We got 2 Iranian ships that I don't believe have vacated the area. You need to give them 3 hours to get out of the area, or they will be sunk. As simple as that. Is anybody out there? Rob, are we still going? What's going on? I apologize, Rob. I don't hear anything.